Chapter 1. Before the Power. Childhood. New York, 1930s. The future global icon of elegance. But as a child, Jacqueline Bouvier, the world-famous Jackie Kennedy, was an absolute nightmare for her elite private school. She was so unmanageable and defiant that teachers kicked her out of class almost daily. Her personal file was packed with reprimands for bad behavior. Nobody looking at this rebel believed she would grow up to be a woman with flawless manners. The late 19th century. The girl with the heaviest stare, Eleanor Roosevelt, a future legend of global diplomacy. But in her childhood, her own mother was so ashamed of Eleanor's looks that she openly called her Granny in front of houseguests. It shattered her confidence so deeply that she actively avoided looking in mirrors for the rest of her life. Chicago. The perfect student, young Hillary Rodham, long before she became Hillary Clinton. But her political toughness was forged on the streets. When 4-year-old Hillary ran home crying because of neighborhood bullies, her mother didn't comfort her. She locked the front door from the inside and ordered her daughter to go back out and hit the main bully right in the face. The little girl went back, did exactly that, and learned her most valuable lesson. Never back down first. The gold standard of family values. But her own childhood was pure drama. Her biological mother simply abandoned little Nancy Davis, the future Nancy Reagan, with relatives for 6 long years to pursue a personal career. But there is a twist. This abandoned girl's godmother was Alla Nazimova, one of the most scandalous and eccentric silent film stars in Hollywood. The contrast that shaped this future First Lady is staggering. The 1930s, New York. Born into a wealthy publishing dynasty, girls in her circle were expected to be delicate and polite. But young Barbara Pierce, who the world would later know as Barbara Bush, was a towering tomboy who preferred aggressive sports over high society tea parties. She possessed a sarcasm so ruthless and a tongue so sharp that even adults were terrified of arguing with her. No one looking at this sharp-tongued athlete saw the comforting grandmother of America. The South Side of Chicago. A modest family. But young Michelle Robinson, long before becoming Michelle Obama, recognized no authority. In the 2nd grade, she decided the curriculum was too primitive, and her teacher was incompetent. The 7-year-old caused a massive scene, demanded the school administration reevaluate her knowledge, and forced them to transfer her to a class for gifted children. She took what was hers from day one. Chapter 2. The Rebellion, Youth. 10 years later. Jacqueline Bouvier is a student. At 21, she did the impossible. She beat out over 1,000 competitors nationwide to win a junior editor position at Vogue magazine in Paris. It was the ultimate dream job. But the future Jackie Kennedy quit on her very first day. Her mother convinced her that in the Parisian fashion business, she would never find a wealthy, influential husband. She chose cold calculation over a career. Eleanor Roosevelt's teenage years. Desperate to hide their ugly duckling, her relatives exiled her to a boarding school in England. But they made a fatal mistake. The headmistress of the school was a radical thinker and political activist. Instead of teaching Eleanor how to sew and stay quiet, she completely rewired her brain, turning a broken girl into a brilliant political strategist. The late 60s. Hillary Rodham, a student at an elite college, decides to make some cash far away from high society. She takes a summer job at a factory in Alaska. The future Secretary of State stood in rubber boots all day, gutting salmon and cleaning fish slime. It was there she staged her very first rebellion, demanding management improve working conditions. She was fired immediately. Nancy Davis's youth was about surviving the jungle of show business. She fought her way through the movie industry, settling for background roles in B-movies. She had to share sets with the biggest stars of the era, learning studio schemes and how to manipulate press attention. It was the perfect training ground before stepping onto the biggest stage in Washington. The 1940s. Barbara Pierce gains entry into the prestigious Smith College. While thousands of young women fought desperately for a spot at this elite institution, Barbara did the unthinkable. At just 19 years old, she dropped out completely. Why? To secretly marry a teenage Navy pilot named George H.W. Bush, whom she met at a country club dance. She threw away her Ivy League tier education to gamble her entire future on a high school romance. The 1980s. Michelle Robinson fights her way into the elite Princeton University. But there was no fairy tale. When her roommate's mother found out about Michelle's background, she was so horrified she demanded the university relocate her daughter immediately. Michelle stayed in that room. She responded the only way she knew how, by becoming one of the top students in the history of her graduating class. Chapter 3. The Calculated Ascent, Young Adulthood. One step away from making history. Few people know this, but before meeting John F. Kennedy, 22-year-old Jacqueline was officially engaged to a successful Wall Street broker. But when she realized his financial prospects were too small for her massive ambitions, she was ruthless. During dinner at a restaurant, she silently took off her engagement ring, slipped it into her fiancé's coat pocket, and walked out forever. The path to the White House was clear. Young Eleanor Roosevelt was no longer afraid of anything. As the wife of a rising politician, she categorically refused protection from the Secret Service. Instead, she got an official permit to carry a firearm and always kept a loaded Smith & Wesson revolver in the glove box of her car. She drove entirely alone through the most dangerous parts of the country, trusting absolutely no one but herself. She knew perfectly well that in the shadowy, unpredictable world of Washington politics, relying on others was a fatal weakness, and she was fully prepared to pull the trigger if necessary. The early 70s. The girl from the fish factory turned into a ruthless lawyer. Even before Bill Clinton became anyone important, a 26-year-old Hillary Rodham had already secured a spot on a special congressional committee. Her job? Gathering evidence to impeach the sitting president of the United States, Richard Nixon. She had no intention of just being a politician's wife. She was already taking down presidents. The story of Nancy Davis's marriage to Ronald Reagan didn't start with romance. It started with sheer panic. In the late 40s, her acting career hung by a thread. Her name accidentally ended up on a secret FBI watch list. Terrified, she sought out a powerful protector who could clear her name from the intelligence archives. That savior was the president of the Screen Actors Guild, a man named Ronald Reagan. Raised in the extreme luxury of the East Coast, her first steps into adulthood were a brutal shock. Following her new husband George to the Texas oil fields, Barbara Bush moved to a dusty, unforgiving frontier town. She lived in a tiny, divided apartment where she actually had to share her only bathroom with neighbors who turned out to be working women of the night. That extreme survival school permanently erased her New York snobbery and forged a political matriarch. Michelle Robinson's young adulthood was at the very top of the corporate ladder. She was a fierce attorney at a prestigious Chicago law firm when she was assigned to mentor a clumsy, chain-smoking new intern named Barack Obama. When he tried to ask her out, she shot him down cold, telling him that dating subordinates was completely unprofessional. It took a massive amount of effort for him to convince her to just get coffee.